I'm in.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. So, good morning and welcome to our first care talk of connecting to a larger purpose. And I guess before we get started, my name's Alicia Newell, and I have the privilege of serving as the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs at Wichita State University. And during these times, we felt like it's really important to find ways to connect with not only our students, but to just have general conversations of things that are going on and seeing our students' lives. And so, although these Tuesday talks are built around, talking about resiliency and promoting the overall health and well-being of our students, staff, and faculty as well. Although the conversations are short, I hope that you will find them to be enjoyable, and also possibly in planting a seed for what is to come and things to look forward to, especially during these times. And so, before we get started and diving into what is a larger purpose, I want to take time to talk about two words that have a lot of personal meaning for me. The topic of purpose is one that is very near and dear to my heart because we often feel lost. We often feel like there is a disconnect that is keeping us from being able to move forward and be the best that we can be. And so when I often think about purpose, I can't leave out grit and resiliency, right? And so when we look at grit, and I don't know what grit means to you or what the purpose is. And so when I think grit, for me, it's an individual's passion and persistence towards a long-term goal. And so it's about pursuing and developing the ability to achieve what's important to you. So it's all of those times when something bad happens or something comes in, impacts us in a negative way or in a way that is throwing us off of our course. It's, how we choose to respond to that and move forward. And so I like to think of grit as ways in which, there's a saying, you get knocked down 10 times and it's the 11th time that you stand up that matters the most. That's grit. Resiliency, on the other hand, I think is probably the most important skill set that anybody can ever learn in life, because resiliency is our ability to recover. And I like to think of resiliency as your personal bounce back, right? And so it's how you bounce back and recover from stress and difficulty. It's what helps us recover quickly and looking at situations not for all of the challenges. And a lot of times when we're in the midst of a storm or when we're in the midst of something that has going through right now, it's the resiliency of what gets us through that moment. And so it's your way of being able to say, okay, this too shall pass. This is something that I'm going to be able to recover from and to move forward from, and going from there. And so as we discuss our larger purpose, I reflect on, in society, we often think of like, what is happiness and what does happiness mean to you. And a lot of times people miss out one of the most important things, and that is that resilience is the foundation of happiness. And then when we look at it this way, of resilience being the foundation of happiness, I had when having a conversation with a student not too long ago, and they were in a pretty bad low place. And I said, this is going to be your happiness one day. And when you move through the storm and you come out of this, you're going to look back one day and see, dang, I did that. Or I survived that. I made it through that. I accomplished and conquered that. And so looking at resiliency is being able to utilize that to get out of emotional states that we often get into. So without it, we're not going to be able to be happy. And so resiliency is the foundation for all of that. So moving into the big picture, that's what the conversation is about, right? Is connecting to a larger purpose. And so I want us to think big. And in this exercise, I guess, it's thinking of what contributes to your own personal grit and resiliency. How do you get in touch with what is important and most meaningful to you? It's connecting to a sense of purpose that can sustain us through challenges. I often, when talking to students or colleagues, I ask, what's your why? Why are you here? Why are you doing specific things? And, again, going back to without the why, we're not living, we're existing. And utilizing this as a fuel going to that moment of just simply existing to living and enjoying and having purpose and meaning of why we do what we do. And so a lot of times I take time day to focus and reflect on my purpose. And what does that mean for me? And how do I help infuse purpose in those that are around me? And so I use what I like to call is the 5 C's. And so you can use this as time to take out a sheet of paper or something just to jot down these 5 things, because it's really helpful, especially for individuals who ever feel like they're stuck. And they're stuck and they really don't know what that purpose is or why they're doing what they're doing. Just to also confirm I'm on the right track. And so, number 1, curiosity. I think this is probably the biggest one, is being curious. Curious enough to explore what inspires you and also energizes you. If it inspire you or energize you, again, what is your purpose? What woke you up this morning? And what inspired you to get out of bed to do what you're doing? For me, it's many of you. It's my students. It's you fuel me to do what I do. And so be curious enough to explore what inspires you and also energizes you. Number two is connect with others who share your interest. And so looking at your tribes and your network and the people that you associate with, and how are they helping you stay connected to your larger purpose? Are they individuals who are inspiring you, who are motivating you, who are encouraging you, who understand where you're at and where you're going and are going to help you along the way? Are they people who are going to stay connected with you and, more importantly, hold you accountable to what that purpose is? Number 3, create seek creative expressions. What makes you thrive? If there's something that makes you thrive, how are you seeking those expressions in order to get you to that next level? Number 4, and this is one that I love, because a lot of times it's until we take a time out and we pause and we really think about what matters most. And a lot of times when I talk with students, they will tell me, well, my parents this, and my parent that, or my instructor or someone, and it's all of these other things of what everybody else wants. And I often say, pause. What do you want? What is that matters most to you? If you're not doing it because it's in here and it's something that you are passionate about and it has a purpose and meaning, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And the last one is number 5, and that courage. And it's the courage to face things head on. It's courage to try new things without fear of failure. And it's the courage to take the first. And so those are my 5 C's of what I like to do in order to try to hone in and reevaluate my purpose. And I wanted to say, one of the most important things to remember is that your purpose is going to change over time. And if we are not having genuine conversations and reflection about, I've shifted, looking back where I've been in my career, my journey, my purpose has shifted significantly. And I can tell you that my purpose shifted the most when I became a mother. And in that moment, I had a bigger purpose. I no longer was living and doing things for me. I was doing it now for my kid. And when I evaluate my purpose of why I do what I do, my career, my day-to-day work, the things that I'm engaged with, I noticed and recognized that my purpose, of being the best mother that I can be, and all of these things of pouring my all into my family, had also started trickling into there, and my purpose and how I engage with my colleagues and my students. And, it became very clear that they became in lines with one another. And so, checking and realizing it, when you shift into a new chapter of life, what does that mean for your purpose? Whether that's starting college, graduating from college. And I ask, again, students, tell me about your major. Why are you majoring in, I spent a couple years in engineering, and I would constantly ask students, tell me about your major. Why did you choose mechanical engineering? Why did you choose, biomedical? And often students would tell me, well, my mom gave me 2 choices. My parents gave me 2 choices. And just going back and again thinking, stop. You can't live and do things for other people, because I will tell you, the students who are majoring in something because someone told them they should, and they're not doing it because it's what they will change their major probably 3 to 4 times. And so I like to, ask students, put a pin in it. Give me the semester, maybe even the year, to help you navigate and figure out what your purpose is. And so, during these times, I think we can all think of times where there's something that has transpired in our lives that have put meaning behind why we do what we do. And so this is, something that, is important and really critical of making sure we're spending time and recognizing, our strengths and our weaknesses and things of, this is what I do because not because it makes a lot of money. A lot of times students will say, well, I'm in this major because I want to make a lot of money. Money's great, but if it's not fueling you, and time where I really struggled with, where I was going and what I was doing. And so I remember talking to a mentor of mine, and his advice was, Alicia, you to identify 5 people who know you really well. And those 5 people, I want you to ask them one question. And the question is, what are your strengths? What are you good at? And then I want you to take time after you collect all of their answers and sit down and see what you're majoring in and what you're doing. Are you utilizing those strengths? And so I thought it was silly, but I ended up engaging in the conversation. And what I learned is that through this exercise, I was having authentic, genuine conversations, not only about, my strength, me, and realizing that through this exercise, I was creating my first genuine network, my first authentic tribe of people who really knew me and were invested in me, not only, professionally, but personally. And so that's, an exercise I would encourage each of you to do, is find 2 or 3 people and ask them, what do you think my strengths are? And take time to see how are you utilizing your strengths to fuel your purpose and your passion. As you begin and go out to define your larger than self purpose, I want you to keep in mind of things that you're going to do to sustain your purpose. And so, are there things that you do to remind you of why you do what you do?